Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN. Today, we have breaking news for you. As we speculated last night during the COD After Dark VC livestream, will they be announcing and starting the KVK prep timeline for the upcoming season for the Gen 1 kingdoms? And lo and behold, what do we see when we log in to one of those kingdoms that is in that Gen 1 KVK pool? A timer that has started. So today, we're going to look through the new season for AKA Season 3, Rise of the Dragon. We're going to look at the details. I'm going to talk about the timeline. Is it still worth for the Gen 1 kingdoms to skip and go to Gen 2? We'll show you some data as well to complement and give you my thoughts. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us up because it helps out a lot. So, starting with, let's take a look at what the season has to offer. We'll come back and talk about the timeline, and then I'm going to show you some stats that we pulled on the current Gen 1 kingdoms, what those numbers look like, and then if they were to skip and go into the Gen 2 kingdom pool, what do those numbers look like for how many kingdoms that could register, power differentials, etc. Okay. Rise of the Dragon. 40 days, we know that. There are 6 camps. Now, keep in mind interesting. Wow. So now that I'm seeing this, Rise of the Dragon is replacing Dragonfall, which is, and somewhat makes sense. We were talking about this again in the COD VC last night when I was live streaming, and a few people were mentioning that, because I kind of speculated how Rise of the Dragon map was basically, it looked like it was just a more fine-tuned version of Dragonfall. But the fact is that by them replacing it kind of doubles down on that to me. Okay. Let's look at some details. So we got 6 camps, 40-day season duration. Let's look at some deets. So season overview, we're just gonna look at the important bits, right? Most of these are pretty standard. Season reset, CPI's policies, prestige, merits. Okay, let's go to features. This is probably a little bit more of what we'd like. In the land of Swan Show on the edge, okay, mighty tree. Okay, center traces of boom and stars, divine. Okay, nope, doesn't do anything for me. You see beneath the bows of Chen, mysterious woman, strip memories. Okay, join along mystical. Okay, here we go. Along the master, she masters mystical talents and skills of the one shows skills that you may employ to aid you in your extraordinary adventure. So does that mean we're gonna get new season talents possibly? Darkling Warhordes, menace only by joining. Also, for those of you curious, remember, Darklings are getting improved arrow drops now from level 21 to 50, I believe, from the update. So that is exciting. Spires. Okay, so occupy spires to awaken their dormant powers, use them to automatically launch attacks against. Okay, so we know that. New stories. Okay, like the merger stage is set for ultimate. Okay, so no. New behemoths. Can we know they have the gear sentries and the shadow dragon? And then we're getting some new policies that we'll be able to look forward to, but nothing that they're mentioning. Okay, let's go to season map. All right, so we have 6 starting zones, which is double the amount that we had for, 1.5 times, if we're being technical, for the Dragonfall. Dragonfall, we had 4 starting zones, and it basically kind of made an X, right? Or a cross. Now, we have 6 starting zones, which, again, with the map differential that we have now, keep in mind, Dragonfall was basically right? So Dragonfall was the circle, except you had someone here, up here, and not really south, but it was like northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast, right? Zone 2 was the west and the east, I believe, and then Zone 3 was the south and the north, and then you basically all connected to the final zone. The map here is set up a little bit differently now. It's kind of a mix of that and the standard Tamaris map, with the exception of that you just have more Zone 3s. So for here, what it could end up being is that you can get a similar situation where maybe, I think this is going to be just standard. I think this is going to be standard pass openings. I don't think they're going to do this whole thing where it's like, oh, Zone 2's on the left, Zone 3's on the right. But I do think you're going to have, I think this is Zone 2, right, which is going to be between the Zone 1s. And then you're going to have your statue play. That we did see between, I believe it was each of the zones, or at least all the ones that connect, even if it's every other. And then, so that means you can fight in Zone 2. Everyone gets a free Zone 3, essentially. But what I hope they do in Zone 3 is I hope they have statues in Zone 3. I hope they do like a little statue area that connects each Zone 3, so that way you can fight there. And then they also have the cross Zone 3 passes, but I hope that those don't open until the final zone passes open. So Example would be Zone 2 opens. You can fight your cross server. And the thing I like about this, I want to point out, I like how they're giving you choices here, where each Zone 1 has 2 Zone 2 choices, at least from what it appears to be at first look. That is nice because I think it gives you more flexibility on who you might want to choose to fight. And so you're not just locked into one choice. Once you make it into Zone 3, then everyone gets to make it into Final Zone. That is a massive and continuous trending adjustment that they made from Dragonfall, and they're keeping that going into this new variation, which I do like. I think that is important. You absolutely need to give everyone, or up to everyone, the opportunity to make it into the FZ. So this is how I'd like to see passes open. Zone 2 pass opens, Zone 3. Well, sorry, let me go in order of statues too, right? So it's statue pass opens, Zone 2 pass opens, Zone 3 pass opens, Zone 3 statue pass opens, Zone 4 opens, and then you can do the cross Zone 3 passes open. And then maybe the zone, maybe the cross Zone 2 passes will open to go into someone's Zone 2, right? That's how it, again, like we talked about, go up and then just curve it and come back down. You turn it. Okay. And I don't think there's really anything outstanding here. Let's go. Also, introduction is the same. And then details. Okay, so this is all the same, really. Okay, now let's go into the timeline. So nobody's registered yet, obviously, because registration starts on the 24th. Let's look at some time. So this is interesting. Brink of War, there is before. Now, remember, they said that Brink of War would be starting after. So maybe it's going to take one more. And I think someone said that from COD CS or VIP CS, which was that they're going to keep things intact for this upcoming season, but that on the next rotation or the next cycle, Brink of War will be starting after. Now, some people did bring up some good points that I heard after the fact, which was that when you're in Brink of War, you do need your CP bags or your CP items, and obviously you lose those from what some people were saying when the season starts. And again, I don't pay enough attention to my items, but if that ends up being the case, that obviously seems like it would make it more challenging and more difficult to maybe produce good scores. I don't know what the reasoning is there, unless they just want the KVK prep timeline to be less time so it equals out the 14 days, which again, I don't see anything wrong here, right? So again, I don't know why they're really moving Brink of War to after. I don't see anything inherently bad, especially if you look at this where your registration's on the 24th. Even if you factor in that the preview started today and you say, what, that's the 20th? You have 28 days in February, right? So you got 8 days. Brink of War's on the 1st, right, which would be 9. And then what, you're going a day each, or even if it's 2 days each at that point, I mean, you're 8 plus Brink starts. You're basically right at 2 weeks if it's 8 plus 6, right, for 14 days. So again, the timeline seems fine to me. Okay, now let's go to some numbers and show you and why I believe, and this is where my stance falls now, on me still feeling that Kingdom should skip. You have to understand that registration starts on the 24th. It's going to end on the 26th when matchmaking starts. That means if you're looking at a calendar, you have a number of kingdoms that are coming out, right? So you got Winners Upon Us, 27, Dragonfall 1 through 9 finished on February 11th. If we go to Gen 2, oh, sorry, hang on. I think I have to do, yeah, here we go. So if we do Gen 2, you have, actually, I bet you I can probably do it here, right? Yeah, here we go. So these are all the kingdoms that are coming out on the 4th. You have a number of them. You have the 10 through 20 Dragonfall, which is 112 kingdoms. That's a lot. You have the Calling of Courage, which ends on the 4th as well. There's 3 KVK groups. That's 48 kingdoms. You have 1 KVK, which is Pre-Strife on the 11th. I don't think they'll probably wait for that. But I do believe that if once they finish and come out on the 4th, maybe they do. Maybe they start the preview, possibly, and maybe registration is like on the 14th or something, right? Maybe they wait for those on March 11th. But I think it's more likely, because you already would have a massively increased kingdom pool, if the kingdoms that are currently in pre-war skip, which I feel the majority of them, if not all of them, should. you are only going to have to wait at this point, if you think about registration on the 24th, which is in 4 days, you're having to wait you're waiting 8 more days. That's nothing, right? A week and a half, that's nothing. So my recommendation for every single kingdom right now in pre-war, right, which is if we go in game, we can look at those, and you'll see for Season of Strife, ooh, look at this. They have little filters now. Cool. But we'll reminisce about those later. All these kingdoms here in pre-war for Season of Strife, all the kingdoms here in pre-strife, you just need to skip. And again, I'm talking for the ones that can, right? Obviously, not everyone is going to be able to. But if you do skip, now you're getting, I think we looked at it was like 256, 262. I initially counted 262. Again, even if it's a 6 margin of error off, you're still nearly doubling your kingdom pool. Because right now the kingdom pool is 135 kingdoms that are there for Gen 1. You skip, now you're almost doubled the amount. And that's at minimum, right? Because you still also have to factor in the kingdoms that have already skipped 3 times. Even if they don't have a king or queen at the moment, they might just get automatically registered. Now, again, those are probably going to be more low-powered kingdoms. So some might say, okay, well, it's not really too big of a factor. I can understand that. However, you can't sit here and tell me waiting 1 more week, or at this point, a week and a half, to double your kingdom pool size, which, let's really put things into perspective, helps out everyone because it gives you more kingdoms at more varied power ranges from low to high-powered kingdoms. So it's not as though just the high-powered kingdoms are benefiting. The mid-tier is benefiting, and the low kingdom tiers are benefiting. So to me, this is just a freaking no-brainer. And we already know from the data that we pulled before on the amount of kingdoms that are already saying they are planning to skip, the amount that were undecided or on the fence versus the amount that were saying they weren't going to skip, which is that more kingdoms are going to skip than not skip, right? / not register versus register. There's going to be more that want to go into the March 4th pool. So to me, if you have, and let me see if I can find my notes real quick, because I know we wrote this down. Let me see if I can show this. Oh, here we go. No. This is the skip template. Let me see if, I thought I wrote these numbers down. Maybe I didn't. Okay, yeah, see? I don't think I did now. And I feel bad because, or at least I should say I didn't save it. So I'd have to go back to my video to see what those numbers were because I don't think I wrote them down. I just wrote them on a notepad and then we talked about it. However, what I will say is that if you are a kingdom, let me try not to die here. If you are a kingdom that does not skip and you plan to register, just bear in mind that there is a high percentage chance, maybe some water will help, that you are going to be in a smaller kingdom pool than you probably have ever been. And it would probably be more familiar to when KVKs first started, where you had a very small pool, matchups have a higher percentage chance of being imbalanced, teams have a higher percentage chance of being imbalanced and having wider power gaps, and you have a higher percentage chance of just having a farmer season or just a non-competitive season because the scales are tipped heavily in one favor or the other. It doesn't mean that you can't maybe get lucky, but you have to keep in mind that the lower amount of kingdoms there are in a pool, the less likely you're going to have balanced teams, i.e. balanced matchups, and diplomacy can be even that much more difficult depending on what season you go for, even if you go for Calling of Courage. And because you have 2 splits now, most people are going to go into the new season. And so, yeah, I mean, listen, man, I saw some of the Calling of Courage KVKs, and it didn't really seem like it was that much fun. I'm sure maybe 1 or 2 of them were okay, but you can't sit there and tell me that, you had the best possible experience you could have compared to if everyone just registered for a single KVK storyline. So again, that's my advocation, because I think you're already having enough people that are already planning to register. It just doesn't make sense to me to see other kingdoms not go into the new season. Even if you just want to have an easier KVK, you can still do that because you'd have more of a balanced matchup. You'd have teams and other kingdoms that are closer in your power. So even if you just don't really want to go commit super hard and you think to yourself, well, I'll just go to Calling of Courage and sign up for that or register for that KVK. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, in reality, if you just don't care about getting out of zone 1, you don't really want a PvP or anything, to be honest, it still doesn't really matter what KVK you sign up for. I think if anything, you might have a better time for any kingdom at that matter, signing up for the new season 3 Dragonfall, or sorry, calling it. Oh God, what is it? What is it called again? Why am I already forgetting the name? I'm telling you guys, man, short-term memory loss is a real thing. Where's my thing? Is this Kingdom 1? Yeah. What's it called again? Rise of the Dragon. There we go. See, I do like the art actually for this too as well. Anyways, that's my whole pitch essentially. So we took a look at new season. We took a look at the timeline. We took a look at the kingdoms and how many at the moment could end up to, it's an up to amount, could end up in Gen 2, and talked about a number that have, or at least a number of the kingdoms, right, that have already advocated from Gen 1 that they're planning to skip versus not skip, and then a smaller number that's undecided at the moment. But I'm hoping this maybe pushes those to go. For those that are maybe undecided and on the fence, I'm hoping this pushes those kingdoms more leaning in favor of skipping and maybe even working some no's or some that kingdoms that were planning to register maybe to skip as well. Like I said, I think by the numbers, and the data doesn't lie, there is a lot more upside to essentially anyone and everyone in G1 skipping to G2, waiting until the 4th for it to potentially start, or maybe a couple days after, and then everyone signing up for Rise of the Dragon. I mean, this is an opportunity for the kingdoms to just take control of themselves. Now, what I eventually love is kind of my last comment here. What I love for the team to take control as well and just say, look, we are going to do things, whether it's delay or speed some things up here or there, even if it's by a couple days or a week, give or take, because we want to create the largest kingdom pools that we can. I also, as I've said before, and I'll keep saying it, I do not believe that we should have multiple choices to choose a KVK storyline. I think what they should be doing is rotating, and that's at most. I would also be okay if they only played the most recent KVK storyline, because similarly to Roots of War, when you give too many time slots, too many days, too many day slots and time slots, you just end up in a situation where, because not everyone is going to just one day and one time slot, and I understand that might be somewhat unrealistic, but the fact is that let's say in Roots of War, if you did have every single team sign up for a singular time slot on one day, you would have the largest pool of alliances. Therefore, you would have the least margin of error for power differentials and ranks of alliances signing up. So you'd have more balanced matchups. The same thing applies here, right? Now, I'm okay with them rotating. I'm also okay with them just having one. I don't believe we need to have multiple options, to be honest, because I think all it does is just split and separate the KVK kingdom pools that much more, and it makes it so that way you have a certain percentage of variance for how balanced or imbalanced or fair or unfair a team pairing will be, or a team versus team matchup will be. So that's where I land on it. Love to know what you guys think. Also, what do you think about Rise of the Dragon? Do you think now, based on this timeline and how close we already are to the Gen 2 pool that comes out on March 4th, do you feel like, man, this is, a week and a half? That's nothing at this point. To double our kingdom pool size or KVK pool size, that's 2 Ws. That's a W on top of a W. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. That's how I feel. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.